Good afternoon, everyone. I, Shreya Singh, welcome you all to the third session of Day 4, a masterclass on exploration of mind and relationships in Hindi films, which is being conducted by Dr. Namarta Joshi, Associate Professor and Head of the Department of Journalism and Mass Communication at Guru Nanak Dev University, Regional Campus, Jalandhar. Ma'am has a teaching experience of more than 22 years. She has also had a brief stint as a sub-editor with the Indian Express newspaper. She has been awarded by Navkiran National Award for Contribution to Education and Women Empowerment, as well as Women Achiever Award of the Year by Saint Soldiers Group of Institutes. She has participated and presented papers in many regional, national, and international conferences, including countries like Mauritius, Thailand, and UK. Her area of specialization is film studies. CIFFI 2020 is the world's first 7-day hybrid film festival organized by DME Media School, one of the top media schools in the country. Delhi Metropolitan Education is extremely pleasurable in associating with the prestigious Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. Mr. Tigmanshu Dhulia, National Award winner, film director from Bollywood, is the festival ambassador for CIFFI 2020. We are extremely thankful for his constant support. While DME Media School focuses on the growth of the faculty and the student through academic and co-curricular activities, Deakin University imparts award-winning courses with innovative teaching methodologies. DME is an emerging educational institute located in Noida, and Deakin University is one of the best public universities of Australia located in Melbourne. CIFFI is being organized in a hybrid mode to serve as a useful platform for looking towards the best ways of working, how to navigate through challenging times. Today, we will be screening 13 following films: Lollipop, Act Normal, Silence of the Ganges, Astit, I Heard She Was Crazy, Leave, Phantasm, Her Name Was Grace, Infinite Light, Folktale, Genie and Aka, Wahan Kaun Hai Tera, Before the Light Goes Off. For all the new updates, don't forget to follow us on our social media handles, CIFFI Awards on Instagram and Twitter, and CIFFI on Facebook. All the links are being mentioned in the chat box. Go check them out. You can watch all the films on our website, ciffi.dme.ac.in, where we have 2 live streaming platforms simultaneously screening the movies selected in the festival and the discussions, deliberations, and masterclasses. Now, I request Ms. Manmeet Kaur, Assistant Professor, DME Media School, to introduce the expert for the masterclass.
Thank you, Shreya. It is indeed pleasure to have Dr. Namarta Joshi, Head Department of Journalism and Mass Communication, Guru Nanak Dev University, Regional Campus, Jalandhar, as the expert of this masterclass on the topic, Exploration of Minds and Relationships in Hindi Cinema. We welcome you, ma'am, for the masterclass at Cineast International Film Festival of India, CIFFI 2020, world's first hybrid 7-day film festival by an educational institute in association with Deakin University, Melbourne, Australia. Dr. Vikrant Kishore, Festival Director, CIFFI 2020 from Deakin University, is always ready to put insights and provide clarity to achieve more knowledge-oriented deliberations. We also have Dr. Amrish Saxena, Dean DME Media School and Director, Studios and Production at Delhi Metropolitan Education, Noida. Looking forward for an insightful session, but before that, I would like to invite Professor Saxena, Dean and Director, Studios and Production at Delhi Metropolitan Education, to please address the gathering. Sir, unmute.
Thank you, Manmeet. It's indeed a matter of pride and privilege that Dr. Namrata Joshi is with us in this session. And she is one person who is always willing to extend support. And particularly whatever I have been organizing, Wherever I have been doing that, when I organized the this national conference, national seminar in WIPS, so she remained there and supported us a lot and helped in making that seminar a success. Here also in ICANN, she was there and took a session, remained there for 2 days. But then definitely this is Corona time and this is not possible for anybody to travel. But still, we are organizing in hybrid mode and most of the sessions are happening in the online mode. And then the kind of support that I'm getting from all over, that is overwhelming. And so I made it a point that we have to have the session of Dr. Namrata Joshi. And since she has an authority of films, and this is a film festival, so obviously the festival would have been incomplete without her presence and without her participation. So I welcome Dr. Namrata Joshi to be with us in this session. And I
Thank you, sir.
believe that the students will benefit it, and because there are a number of students in the session who are interested in films and the filmmaking of film studies. So this session will directly address to all of them. So I stop here with this welcome note. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Now over to you, ma'am. Ma'am, I just
Uh,
request you to please just adjust your camera because your face is not visible. So I just request you. Yes, ma'am. Yes, fine. Thank you so much, ma'am.
No, no, I mean, Dr. Han, does hand space come?
Hanji,
Now it's
yes.
fine. Now it's fine.
okay. Okay. Uh, Manmeet, thank you for, and Amrish, please, it is just like a family for me, the way I have been participating, especially with Manmeet on the panel. So it's a family for me, and it's not a matter of any formality for me to join you in these sessions. And Manmeet, updating my teaching experience now is almost 25 years.
25 years. Yes, ma'am.
It's, I think you did that 2 or 3 years back, isn't it, my profile? So now updated to 25 years, okay?
Thank you so much,
So
ma'am.
I think all the participants, they've joined.
Yes, ma'am.
All the participants have joined?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, okay. Okay, so today we are talking about exploration of mind and relationships in Hindi cinema. Actually, I have usually been talking about women, representation of women in Indian cinema, in Hindi cinema. But for this session, I decided to go in for somewhat unusual choice, because Hindi cinema, when we talk about Hindi cinema, especially in comparison with the cinema in the other parts of the world, we do not see Hindi cinema, if I call it Bollywood, okay, the Bollywood or Hindi cinema is not seen as a very academic or intellectual exercise. And the kind of films that we show, or the kind of films that we talk about, these films are also, I can say, masala films, very superficial films. But if you go through the history of Indian cinema has been there for almost now 125 years, 96, and this is 2020, so almost 125 years. Throughout its journey, once in a while, and now if I talk about Millennium films, once in a while we have had films which have gone deep into issues, whether they are issues related to society, whether they are issues related to economics, politics, or any other issue related to people. And if I talk about psychological issues also. So Indian cinema, we cannot say, has not dealt with issues which are serious in nature. Even even let's say if we talk about films of Guru.
I think there are some.
I think there is some internet connectivity issues. Just wait for 2 or 3 seconds.
Films of that era also had logical setup of a human mind, clapping also, just like you Dini.
Ma'am, please unmute yourself. Yeah.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. I think there is some connectivity issue at your end. So, yeah.
Okay, so we were talking about filmmakers like Bimal Roy. So I was just quoting you an example of his film like Bandini. There's a particular scene in Bandini where the protagonist, the heroine Nutan, she is thinking about how she would like to kill the hero's wife, so who's in her hospital. So there's a particular scene where she is thinking about having negative thoughts about that, and the entire scene indirectly they are showing symbolism about how there is a shop nearby where they are kind of doing some work and hammering something, and that sound of hammer, that flashes of lighting and all that, it's a very beautiful scene showing the thoughts that are going on in the mind of that protagonist, that character Nutan. So we cannot say that it's only in recent times that these intense issues are being explored. It's in the entire history of Indian cinema, and we can say that the issues of mind, which means psychological issues, and the relationships. Why I've taken up both these issues is that I feel that mind and relationships, they are really intertwined. If we say that mind, we are related to feelings, and if we are related to feelings, we have those feelings are for some kind of relationships. And since Indian cinema has such a very diverse theme that it has dealt with relationship in every coloring. So we take up this issue of exploration of mind and relationships in Indian cinema. So I would start with my PowerPoint. Just give me. Okay. Okay, exploration of mind and relationships in Indian cinema, that's my topic. Now, just like I said that in its 25 years since Lumiere Brothers, they gave their first exhibition. Hindi cinema, I'm still talking about Hindi cinema because I've not taken up all the regional cinemas that are there down south, and Punjabi cinema and other regional cinemas. So many more topics have been dealt with. But since we are just talking of Hindi cinema has explored diverse topics. See, in any art form, whether it is painting, whether it is sculpture, these are the two facets that are being explored. One is related to the society as such, the issues which concern the society, whether they are political in form or economic, or that is one side of art, fine arts and other arts. The second side is the individual thought process. मतलब अलग से अगर आप कहो whether it is Mona Lisa, the painting of Mona Lisa, or Rodin's Thinker, if you are talking about. So Rodin Thinker या Mona Lisa में we are talking about the thought process of a human being. What goes inside the mind of a human being. So art in any form, fine art and cinema as an art form, they have explored various themes. Usually social themes and issues have dominated. I'm talking of Hindi cinema here. Usually we are more concerned with social themes and issues, maybe current, maybe reservation, maybe some Article 15, or we have so many family related issues, Bhagwan, talking about parents and all that. So we are talking of social themes mostly. ज़्यादातर हम social themes को कर रहे हैं, but psychological narratives, they are not missing, actually missing. From time to time, we have had studies of a human thought of 50s, 60s, and especially if we are talking now, I would especially talk about what we presently call multiplex movies or indie movies, independent movies, which we call now. So indie movies, all these formats of cinema, they are now experimenting more. But earlier also they were not missing, and we have had in recent times only, maybe let's say 10-15 years or 20 years, we have experimented with new relationships also. I would say later on I'll talk about the fact that one thing that Hindi cinema is accused of, or it is said that Hindi cinema is responsible for some negative portrayals, some stereotypical portrayals. So that also aspect is also there. This session, I'm here to be the defender of mainstream cinema. So I'll talk about the positive aspects today. Recent films, they have experimented with such subjects, and we'll see how. See, if we are talking about mind, India as such, if we are talking of India as a country, India as a country has had a very, you can say, rich tradition and heritage. We have had philosophers, we have had thinkers, we have had saints, seers who have given us different thoughts and beliefs. Many of maybe Bhakti movement, if you are talking of people from Bhakti movement, or more secular form of philosophers, everything we've got here, talking about life and talking about death. So India, more than any other civilization, has had that concept of mind and thought. So from spiritual to creative, we have had talked about, or written about, or done sculptures, paintings, literature. We have had many forms of folk arts, folk drama, folk songs. So India has been a kaleidoscope of colors in this respect, if we are talking of mind. So we also have had rich literature, from regional literature to Hindi literature, Hindi, Urdu, so many languages that we have. In each language, we have had a rich literature, which has been studying various processes of mind, various recesses of mind. Well, I've been a student of both literature and cinema. And I would like to say at this stage and admit that whatsoever I have learned from literature, cinema had been a significant portion of that. Cinema has been a great teaching experience to me, similar to what I have learned from literature. So literature, whatever, if you are in text, you are talking about, and you are talking of scriptures, you are talking of epics, you are talking of short stories, poems, drama, and everything. And every aspect of that, every format of literature talks about some aspect of mind or thought. Okay, so similarly, I always say to my students, I always say, cinema is just like onion. So cinema is just like onion in the sense that you unpeel each layer and you learn something different. You learn something different. Similar to literature, if you watch a film 100 times, 1,000 times, each time you will have something new. And I have had this experience. I'm just like I'm reading a book again and again. I'm watching a film again and never bored with it. Okay, because you see each character differently, each story differently, the messages that come from it, the input that comes from it, that is totally different. Interpretations are totally different, and that makes it a totally new experience watching film each time. Okay, so cinema is another art form which expresses just like literature, I said. If we are talking about mind, there are various ways in which you are depicting thought processes. See, in the text, you are writing in detail about, okay, what is going on in the mind of a person. In cinema, you cannot do so. So it is either in the form of a monologue, either in the form of a dialogue, whatever you are expressing, okay, or many times I've written it here. It can be discussed anywhere, but many times if you see in Hindi films, you usually have an alter ego, maybe person in the mirror or outside it, a ghost-like person, one who becomes an angel and another who becomes a demon. So your positive thoughts are in white and negative thoughts are in black, and they are kind of trying to influence your mind, one in a positive way, one in a negative way, and then it is up to the person concerned whom he listens to. Okay, so what he is saying is, okay, one side of your mind, one part of your mind says don't do it, and the other side of your mind says do it. And it is ultimately up to the character to take whatever action he wants, whatever he wants to do. So they're different in ways in which the mind works, and you are shown how that mind works in films. It can be action, the way the expression is there, the way you emote. How do you emote that thought? Your sadness, your anger. So one is emotion, or you can have a monologue, the dialogue. Through dialogues, you are conveying whatever is in your mind, since nobody can read it. In book, you can read what the person is expressing, but not in films. You can only show it by way of dialogue or in the way of action, expression, okay? Or as I said, you have alter egos. Though that is there. And just like I said in the beginning, that there is an inexorable link between mind and relationships, which means that if we are talking of relationships, why I could just have said, okay, I'll take this one. But I took up relationships because a lot of relationships are being depicted in Hindi films, from family to friends. We'll discuss that later on. So these relationships are formed with the kind of feelings that you have, which is connected to your mind. I said it before also. So these two are linked. Therefore, I took these two facets, to these two dimensions of human mind, which translates into forming relationships and having feelings, emotions, which are expressed in relationships. Okay, I just wanted to share this film separately with you because this is one film in the world rather, not only in the history of Indian cinema. This is one film which maybe you have seen or not seen, which has a single hero, single character, not even hero, a single character, Sunil Dutt, who is conveying his thought processes alone. This film is listed in Guinness Book of World Records also. The fewest actors in a narrative film category. The other characters who are there in the film are in the form of just sound and shadows. So one real character is Sunil Dutt, who is a family man whose wife and children are not at home, and he is thinking about what he has done wrong and what he has done right with his family, with his children, and he is regretting whatever he has done wrong, his past indiscretions, and he's kind of trying to say that if my family comes back, I will not do that again. So he's remembering, it's kind of a nostalgia. He's kind of remembering what he did with the fights that he had with his family, the cute moments that he had with his family. I would like to share that clipping with you. Okay. Yadi. So we were talking about this film. Nowhere in the world has there been a film with just one actor, and it's the entire film. Maybe I think it's more than 1.5 hours film, and in these 1.5 hours films, you are showing the entire thought process of a human being, of a man who is undergoing some sort of crisis. I mean, you have a story, there are other characters, and the focus shifts from one character to another. But this is one film which I saw is a unique example of how Hindi cinema has shown that film, you can have a film where you are showing the mind thought process or what is going on in the mind. I'm taking up this existentialism in films. Existentialism, as you know, we have had films based on different philosophy, but throughout the journey of Hindi film or the history of Hindi films, we have had characters who are talking about or thinking about the meaning of life. जिंदा रहने का क्या मतलब है? So we are talking of meaning of life, who have anxiety about things, anxiety about how things are shaping up, and whether what is their own identity. If I'm here talking about especially about women, but not exclusively. They are male characters also, they are female characters. Almost in every other film, you have a character who is talking about how to find herself or himself. Okay, so we are talking about that. Similarly, there are films where the character is feeling alienated from the society. If you are even talking of films which are talking about corruption or about political criminalization or any such things, there also the characters are facing kind of alienation. They are being honest, so they are finding themselves alienated from the society which is dark, which is bad. So that kind of alienation is there. But here we are talking of, if we are talking of existentialism, we are talking of individual alienation. Many films have talked about suicidal tendencies. Also, see, we are talking of existentialism. We are talking about pessimism also. Ultimately, there is also what choices you are making based on whatever is offered to you. It's your destiny. So whether you are taking action or whether you are escaping from whatever is happening, that depends on you. You have papers, you have different studies also. There's one study on Guru Dutt's existentialism in Guru Dutt's films. So if we are watching Pyasa, especially if you just listen to that song, legendary song, Ye Duniya Agar Mil Bhi Jaye To Kya Hai? So that song we can read existential meanings in that song itself. The entire, you can say, the plot of the film, the story of the film, that is existential in nature, as are his many other films. If you talk about Kagaz Ke Phool, the kind of loneliness, the kind of detachment he has, the kind of anxiety, the angst he has. So most of Guru Dutt's films, they will have that form of existential features in that. Many of the recent films, of course, they are there with an existential element. Even if you talk about films like Wake Up Sid, Lakshya, where you are roaming aimlessly, trying to find yourself, and ultimately you find something where you have certain goals then, and you give yourself up to those goals. Okay, just visit that song "Main Aisa Kyun Hu" in Lakshya. So that again, if you read and interpret, you will find existential elements in that. So Rang De Basanti, definitely, how the youth finds itself. If you have seen Rang De Basanti, you will see that how that person who was carefree, the Punjabi boy who was carefree in nature, who was always joking around, he turns into a serious human being, aimless person finding an aim. So these youth, they have that shooting going on, they are influenced by that, and then the death of a friend of theirs, and then they get into action. So the choices they make, they are sure of their choices. They are not regretting what they have done. So that is kind of an existential element in films like Rang De Basanti or Heather, or if we are talking of, was a film called Khamoshi. This is a Wahida Rehman 1970 film where Wahida Rehman is a nurse and is asked to share to care for certain mentally unstable patients, and ultimately she falls ill because of that excessive attachment she forms with those patients. So I would like to show these clippings. Here, see, if I'm talking about exploration of mind, I was talking of alter ego. Here, the alter ego is in the form of a diary. She has written her thoughts out in a diary. So a diary is another means, kind of textual means. It's more closer to literature than any other. So that kind of an alter ego is created in the form of a diary where they can express their thoughts. Now another thing, which is pertinent perhaps to India. So if we are talking of Hollywood films, you would not have those religious or spiritual overtones which are there. So everything, every thought process maybe is connected with whatever you believe in, whether it is God. So whether you are talking about destiny, okay, whatever God has destined for us. So those religious and spiritual thoughts about life and death, many of the films, if you remember, many of the films in the past, especially maybe now, after Oh My God, there has been some kind of a disbelief in God. I have not seen much references to God in recent times, but films, they kind of taking from epics and scriptures. We are quoting Srimad Bhagavad Gita, we are quoting from Ramayana, we are talking about different kinds of other scriptures, even up to and all that. So in India, one religious philosophy, the references to Radha. So these kind of thought processes are there in many of the Hindi films. So one thing is there that even if we are constantly, another thing which is there is we are never away from questions like death, and how death is an escape or a moksha or a nirvana from the human life. So that kind of escapism, and to prepare a person, just like Gita does, to prepare a person for death, is something which is unique to India rather. I'll show you, there's one film which I'll try to show you, a film called Guide, if you have seen that, a legendary film. A film Guide, in towards the end when the hero Devanand, he becomes a saint and he is asked to undertake fast, when he knows that the people, they are kind of he is not a saint and he cannot bring them rain, but still he is, and if he does fasting or he gives up food, he'll die. But still, in case of he puts himself in the hands of that, they have taken care of him, and whatever he does, he puts himself into the hands of God, and he's talking about. So there's one clipping that I would like to show you of Guide, where he's talking about so as you have seen in Guide, he's talking about belief in God, and whatever is to be done, that has to be put in the hands of God, and God will take care of it. So beliefs are questioned also. I just talk about Oh My God. India is unique in the sense that, especially if we are talking of Hinduism, we have had numerous films where these beliefs are questioned also. Even if we are talking of dialogues like from Diwar, or Amitabh Bachchan says that कि मैं तेरे मंदिर कभी नहीं आया, मैं सीढ़ियाँ नहीं चढ़ा, because I felt कि मेरा तुझ में belief नहीं है. And today, if we are talking of films like Oh My God, so we have had films like बहुत सारी फिल्में जहाँ पे जो the characters, the heroes or heroines, they are questioning the existence of God. So that is also there, which is unique. In, if you are talking of other religions, they might not take it. If you are talking of Islam, or if you are talking of other religions, they might not take it as well as our Hindi films do in context of the Hindu gods. So beliefs are also questions, but we have had atheist heroes, people who are not believing in God and are openly rebelling against. We have films called Nastic. We have film called Nastic. So ultimately, they turn into believers. So all ranges there, and particularly, I am very much in favor of Hindi films. We frequently talk about in all the students that I talk to and colleagues that I talk to. we are talking of the negative effects of films on our society, and especially about youth and children. But I usually talk about all the positive effects which we have had, and those should be highlighted by as many people as possible, because film appreciation talks about how to inculcate that sense of good and bad only. So if we as educational institutions and we as parents inculcate that sense of good cinema and of positive impact, so we would not use, they say human mind picks up negative things. But we can teach our children, we can teach our students to pick up the positive things. I've talked about how Hindi cinema, in terms of a little apart from religious sense, we have been promoting patriotism. You can visit Wagah border today anytime, and you will see what tunes are being played there, and people are shouting Bharat Mata ki Jai and everything, and how patriotism is being aroused in any crisis, whether it is Kargil war or any other war. We are talking of brotherhood and communal harmony from the time of V. Shantaram. We have had films like Padosi. We have had songs like Mere Desh Premio. So that kind of promotion of brotherhood and communal harmony, and even devotion. Films on devotional characters. Sant Tukaram, 1936, Gulzar's Meera, or the songs that we have. Even in, it's very ironic that even in educational institutions, small schools and colleges, you have, in the assembly, you have film songs. हमको मन की शक्ति देना और ए मालिक तेरे बंदे, हम, we are singing songs from films. So how you are inculcating moral sense in people, that also comes from Hindi films. So we are talking about impact of these films also, which they have had on, and we have had always underestimated the power of cinema. We have always underestimated the power of cinema. If we see deeply, we'll see that cinema is kind of an integral part of our culture. If we say our culture, I would say more than 50% of our culture is now film driven. Whether it is dress, food, I also said our beliefs even. So that thing is there, and obviously that is related to mind. Okay, especially in the new millennium, after 2000, we have 20 years. And in these 20 years, more than any other time in the history of Indian cinema, we are dealing with mental health issues. We have films dealing with mental health issues. And these issues need to be discussed now more than any other time, because these things are becoming more and more prevalent, whether we are talking of every other day, even in the context of school children as young as 5 and 6 years old committing suicide due to depression, which earlier was not there. We are now seeking help for other mental issues like, let's say, autism or amnesia or any other thing, schizophrenia. I've in schizophrenia, where you have split personalities, we have films like Raat Aur Din as far back as 1967. Nargis played the role of a person with split personality, and the recent one, as recent as Karthik calling Karthik, which are talking of schizophrenic characters. Then autism, we have Barfi, we have characters with autism. Then Alzheimer, the Amitabh Bachchan's character had Alzheimer, so we are portraying such characters. Cerebral palsy, we had films like Margarita with the Straw. very beautifully portrayed by Kolchin, and depression, all the Devdas films, alcoholism and depression, heroine Kareena Kapoor's film, then amnesia, I think in very caricatured form has been in existence for a long time, where and almost every other film you had characters who had lost their memory. So, but in recent times, they are more scientifically treated. They are more scientifically treated, and the reasons the cause that are more medically and scientifically explained. Whereas in the past, I have quoted films like Khilona. If you have seen Khilona, the old film, where Sanjeev Kumar with Sanjeev Kumar and his depiction as a mentally unstable person. So that is just kind of a caricature, means you will not see that those kind of expressions and the kind of the behavior that he has, which is exaggerated, or the expressions that are exaggerated, so they are not realistically portrayed, and the solutions they find to it were not realistic. Getting married, or some such solutions were found. The way of speaking of a person you are depicting an autistic person, or so in recent times, simply one thing has happened, and that is that we are kind of treating these things, one realistically, they are realistically portrayed, and second, more and more such topics are being taken up. I'll just show you some clippings that we had. Okay, okay, Karthik. So this is again a schizophrenic person who has some imaginary person. He creates another person, another Karthik, who is calling that. Similarly, Barfi, I'll talk about Barfi in relationships also, how autistic, there is a relationship between autistic persons. So mental health issues are a recent phenomenon, but it is not that in olden times you were not depicting these mental health issues, but they are becoming more prominent now. Then I'll also like to talk about something which is unfortunately very rarely depicted. These are educational issues, and the only film which has treated it kind of going into mind of the person who is suffering from that is that I can say only film is Tare Zameen Par. The other films also have a societal context also. Definitely Tare Zameen Par also has a societal context, the family context. But films like Kitab or Three Idiots, they were not complete depiction of a child's mind or a youth's mind. Tare Zameen Par talked about dyslexia for the first time. Most of the earlier films talked about these people as naughty children, or children who were carefree, not interested in studying. But why the reasons for that were never discussed, which were discussed in Tare Zameen Par. We have also just now in 2020 we had a film like Shakuntala, which again talked about the genius, the prodigies, whom we call them. So the genius minds, how they work, and what are the problems associated with that, their ambitions and all that. So I think we need a bigger educational issues related to mind, related to child psychology, child child psychology or adolescent psychology here, which had talked about these issues. These films have slowly and again, just now we have started seeking that or trying to spread that awareness for seeking help for any of the mental problems. We have films like Dear Zindagi. In Indian society, we have always had that taboo, that stigma, where going in for a psychologist or a psychiatrist meant that the person is going mad. मैं पागल थोड़ी हूँ कि डॉक्टर साइकेट्रिस्ट से मिलूंगा. So this film is just the beginning, the first step towards seeking help, and many of the films, even in if you think about films like Two States, okay, so in a very minuscule way, the hero is shown seeking help from a psychiatrist. So these taboos are also slowly being broken with the help of these. So we do not, if I am talking to all of you, we do not credit Hindi cinema or any kind of cinema of bringing about a social change as much as they deserve. But if I am to say, if I am not exaggerating, much of the social change and the psychological change in behavior of a common man comes from films. Okay, so kind of they are bringing change in psychological setups, and definitely I'm not justifying that there is no negative effects of kind of suicides that are done after watching a film, of creating negativity. Those aspects are also there. I do not disown that, but the fact that the positive changes are also being created have to be accepted. Okay, now we come to relationships. Relationships in Indian films, in Hindi films, they are mostly, if you watch all the movies from 96, from the time that clippings were shown in Bombay, most of the fiction that we have seen is family-based, culture-based, and traditional kind of relationship. All the, I'm talking about all the mothers, all the sisters, all the wives, all means all, and then friends, and any other kind of relationship that you have. Those relationships have been within that fictional framework, and any character or any story that was outside that framework, it took a long time to be accepted, whether it was extramarital relationship, premarital relationship, or some different kind of relationship which we will talk about now. These were not easily accepted. Definitely there were films like Dhool Ka Phool, Daag, where these kind of relationships outside the society were accepted and films were success. But many times, most of the times, they were not. And also one fact was there that all these relationships were male dominated. So in Hindi cinema, you do any study that you want to, in Hindi cinema, Hindi industry, cinema industry has been male dominated, even in terms of filmmakers or the making of a film, as also the representations. So the male dominated society and male dominated relationships have been there, but definitely the change is taking place. We have films like Thappad, which I have very critically analyzed, but that's a different issue. So that kind of relationship is now changing. The male domination is slowly, not yet fully, but crumbling a bit. Then there is a wide, as I said, mothers, daughters, sons, fathers, siblings, sisters, brothers, and friends. So these wide range of relationship. And in India, as the cultural framework says, joint family systems are encouraged. So within these joint family systems also, the additional relationships that we have, like uncle, auntie, grandmother, grandfather. So all these relationships are fully depicted in Hindi films. We are talking of obsessive love, different kind of love. If we are talking about the love between husband and wife, or between the lovers. So we have a depiction of obsessive love, and which is films like, if you see films like Darar, Agni Sakshi, I think that was. So these films depicted obsessive love, the way the person is stalking his wife or girlfriend. Then we have had platonic love. And, we have songs as back as, if you've seen films like Saraswati Chandra, so you have songs like Chhod De Sari Duniya Kisi Ke Liye, Ye Munasib Nahi. So that kind of platonic love is also there, in which the persons, they are not physically close, but they love each other. One-sided love also, where it is unrequited love. The person is not loving you and you are loving or helping that person. And then wild, erotic, violent love, which I think though was not very prominent in earlier cinema, but is now. So we have something like Kabir Singh, which again I would like to discuss one day, the kind of toxic masculinity or the kind of love, the domination that Kabir Singh has for the heroine. So these kind of loves are there. I would like to, these kind of love, I would like to show you some clippings also. Okay. Really want to talk about the more taking up bold subjects, and they are being accepted by the very difference between hero and heroine. Audience is also kind of evolving. They are being depicted in various forms, like same-sex relationships. You have gay films on gay and lesbian couples. I've put it Fire and films like Fire and Girlfriend. And then you have some bold societal issues like live-in relationships. So not many films, but yes, in recent times, there have been films like Salam Namaste, Luka Chupi, Shuddh Desi Romance, where you're talking about live-in relationships. You are also talking about love across borders, Indo-Pak, though now they are given the name of love jihad. We should not talk about that issue. But yes, India and Pakistan films like Veer Zara. Then you have films where you have physically and mentally challenged love. I talked about Barfi, where Priyanka Chopra and Ranbir Kapoor, they are in a very different kind of sweet kind of a relationship. You have interfaith, interlanguage films like Two States. So they also have a kind of a conflict. We had films like Ek Tujhe Ke Liye also way back, where you are talking about people from two states. And then you have technology. Interesting thing is you have technology driven love also. I've quoted here Robot. I forget the name of the film. Many of the films, you had films, Mujhse Dosti Karogi, for example, had that element where you are forming a relationship born out of emails, of internet kind of love. So these are kind of relationships which perhaps did not exist in earlier times. So these kind of relationships are also being explored, and rather we need to have a body of such films in case we are discussing it 5 years, 10 years down the line. we can analyze how they have, whether they were stereotypical portrayals or they were not, they were taking up something unique. We'll be able to analyze them, but still we do not have, we are just in a state of transition where these issues are being put into the market and being accepted by the audience slowly and gradually. And after 5 or 10 years, we'll see whether, how and why these films were discussed. Similarly, okay, first I would like to show you some clippings of these, okay, two states that is depicted in some of the recent films, Luka Chupi also. Similarly, from time immemorial, we have had father, son, father, daughter, mother, mother-son relationships. And we had a very stereotypical relationship, depiction of all these relationships. Nirupa Roy kind of sacrificing, always crying mother, cooking gajar ka halwa for the kids and all that. But only in recent times that we have had films like Piku, very unconventional kind of film, and Neel Bhatte Sannata, where the girl, mother takes admission into school for kind of boosting her daughter and all that. So we have had slowly from Nirupa Roy to Rima Lagu and to the present generation, where we have very young, outgoing kind of mothers, which are not the kind of mothers that we had in the first half of, let's say, the history of Hindi films. So every range of, rather, even if we are talking of films like Beta, where even the stepmother is in a stereotypical, the bad stepmother kind of films, where we had stepmothers who are trying to kill their, or creating conspiracy against their daughter or son. So a wide range of things are being discussed in recent times. Similarly, also we have had sibling relationships, where we have Phoolon Ka Taro Ka Sab. So we have films like Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, love for, we have numerous Rakhi songs. So that kind of love is also there, but we have films like Abhay, where a convoluted kind of a distorted love for a brother is there. I'll also like to quote films like SARS, which was said to have been kind of a depiction of Lata and Asha Bhosle rivalry depicted in it. So that kind of not so good sibling relationship that we have in Hindi films. I'll just show you one clipping of that. Towards the end, I would like to also to talk about one of a very important relationship in Hindi films, which is friendship. Whether it is between girls or between boys, we've even have songs, those Nara, or film songs in Sholay. You have Viru, Jai Viru kind of relationship. We had films like Dosti, which became iconic, then Kai Poche and Veere the Wedding, called by many as chick flick, and Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara. I mean, numerous films which are based on different facets of friendship, some where there is some negative factors come in, some where you are sacrificing for your friend. So different aspects of friendship have been depicted in Hindi films, though there are many aspects which we have friendships like Three Idiots. I talked about Three Idiots in educational context, but that kind of friendship is also there. Okay, you have friendships like where just the girls are involved. You have girlfriends and boyfriends, and boyfriends and girlfriends. So different kind of friendships I have been depicted in Hindi films. I have not talked about all the peripheral relationships that are there, just some of the main relationships that have been depicted. In recent times, we can say that all these very kind of just the main aspects had been taken up in earlier films, but now like I mentioned earlier, we are taking up new dimensions of these relationships, perhaps going more into a realistic portrayal and kind of exploring the psychological aspect in social relationships also, or answering questions about how or why of it, the questions we had not addressed before. The earlier were kind of masala films where you had just a superficial portrayal. But now we are kind of delving deep into, we have gone extensively, we are going intensive now. So with new kind of literature, new kind of fine arts and other arts, and a new kind of cinema is emerging in the 21st century. And I hope that in this 21st century, we are able to see the kind of cinema that we are admiring now. Just because they are experimenting, they'll keep on experimenting and coming out, I hope, with more original narrative and more original content in cinema. Because the audience also is looking for some kind of a novelty, the kind of novelty in relationships that is emerging in societies is also being represented in cinema as such, and the audience is longing to see that. So more aspects of mind and more aspects of family and social relationships need to be discussed, and I hope in future times we do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. That was
And Manmeet,
definitely... Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am. That was definitely an informative and relatable session. Now, I would like to thank Mr. Ritik Ghosh, Mr. Sumantra Sathik Das, Ms. Manmeet Kaur, Ms. Kritika Sati, and Mr. Sachin Nair, Assistant Professors, DME Media School, and the entire digital and creative team for providing the overall digital operations and production for CIFFI 2020. Before concluding the session, I would like to request Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena to please give the closing remarks.
Thank you, Shreya. I was listening to the session with rapt attention, though this technology marred certain portions and we were not able to enjoy those pieces fully. But still, it was so informative, and it touched upon so many such aspects of films which normally as a viewer we do not take notice of. So it was completely an academic presentation, and obviously we people who are more keen in knowing about films thoroughly enjoy it. I think the students would also have enjoyed it. And I think there's more which can be told to you by Dr. Susmita Bala, because she was also keenly watching the whole session, enjoying the session. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I request Professor Dr. Susmita Bala to please address us all.
Thank you, Shia. Thank you, Namita ma'am. You told about different aspects of Hindi cinema. It's very different topic because exploring in cinema as heritage, spiritual, culture, folk dance, and other subjects is really very important. Creativity is everywhere if you talk about different modes and genres in cinema. I think examples of Onion is very interesting and understandable
for all. Other than you told lots of interesting themes with lots of examples. So thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot to all of you who attended this program. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
ma'am.
so much.
Now, concluding the session, I would now like to thank our entire team, all faculty members and students who have worked day and night facing all the challenges and obstacles of the pandemic to make this festival happen. I want to thank our jury members for patiently and fairly watching all the movies and for giving their precious time and feedback. I want to thank our festival partners, Cover Drive Productions, Vigyan Prasar, CMS Vatavaran, Kids Cinema, We Care Film Festival, our university partner, Adamas University, and institutional partners, Indian Documentary Producers Association, IDPA, Indian Academy of Shorts, IAS, New Delhi Film Foundation, NDFF, and our media partners, The Pioneer and The Policy Times, for their constant support. CIFFI would not have been possible without the efforts and guidance of Professor Dr. Amrish Saxena and Dr. Vikrant Kishore, festival directors who led us constantly in organizing this festival. I would also like to extend my thanks to Festival Associate Director, Professor Dr. Susmita Bala, Head DAB Media School, and all my team members who have helped us organize this event in various capacities. I also thank the management of DME for their continuous support. I must thank all our participants who joined this session. Also, I request everyone present in the session to please fill the feedback form. The link is in the chat box. Now let's get ready for tomorrow, which is 19th December. Tomorrow we will be screening following 27 films. Sanctioned, Why Hiking is Fighting Corona, Amma, Mountains Are Calling, Hara Kaun, Gandhi Ji Ka Sapna, Haga Hijra, Loop, Namaste, The Project, One More Episode, Rang Banaras, Can't, Screen Screams, A Bit of Clean Air, Trigger, Azad, Sham Work, Hum, Jug Jug Pooji Ahina Tar, Tu Hai Kahan, Jagmag Kare Ee Sansar, Lights in Your Eyes, Thank You for the Honey, Pehli Mohabbat, The Call of the Tarots, and Saving the Savior. Please stay tuned with us for tomorrow's sessions. We will be having one special session where we will be interacting with 4 of our jury members, Mr. Ashok Purang, Mr. Nimish Kapoor, Mr. Pankaj Rakesh, and Captain Divya Sharma. We will also have 2 panel discussions, first on filmmaking as a tool for environment communication, moderated by Mr. Anand A. Jha, Senior Manager, Coordination, Center for Media Studies, CMS, Saket, New Delhi. The second session is titled Sumitra Chatterjee, an Actor and Beyond. It is moderated by Ms. Rukmani Sen, journalist and documentary filmmaker, one of the editors at National Herald, former entertainer, editor Star News, ABP News, Headlines Today and Aaj Tak, former head of film development, Cinestan Films Company, and associate vice president, Fox Star Studios. We request you to join us as we shall be concluding this first of its kind 7-day hybrid international cinema extravaganza film festival on 21st December, 2 p.m. onwards. Thank you, everyone.